Hello, and welcome to Rise of the False Gods Study Group. I think this is Gathering 33, and tonight we're talking about spiritual gods, false gods, and spiritual laws. So that's going to be kind of fun. Just want to adjust my little camera a little bit. I was kind of in a rush because I wanted to make sure I gave Tish some food before I started, hoping she wouldn't be all over demanding food while we were trying to do our little gathering tonight. Again, please feel free to add comments. Yes, Cheryl, thank God it is Friday. And whatever day you're watching, remember, this is the day the Lord has made. We're going to rejoice and be glad in it. Well, that's a pretty potent thing, too. We'll go into that one day. Alrighty. So, we are going to be starting on page 62 at the bottom of the page. And as Cheryl just said, thank God it's Friday. For some people, Friday is more like Monday, because that's when the weekend really gets going. We do have campers coming in this weekend, and I have been really surprised at the number of people who are wanting to get in that last little bit of camping. It's a little nerve-wracking at the same time, because here in Connecticut, the COVID numbers are going up. And I understand that's happening nationwide, of course. Yeah, Tishy's not really happy. She's giving me her opinions back there, but she'll probably be out in a few minutes. So anyway, I want to remind everybody of the importance of wearing your mask and keeping socially distanced. Dr. Fauci said this week that he's hoping that people will keep that in mind, because they've discovered one of the main causes of the spreading is small family gatherings. You know, we're thinking, they're my family. What? How could that hurt? Well, unfortunately, with this devious little virus, it could. You know, and that's one of the ways that we tend to ignore spiritual law, because we don't want to. We want to be with our families. We want to hug. We want to talk up close and kiss and touch. And if we want to get rid of this virus, it is important that we follow the best that science has to offer. Now, some people would say, well, I'm going to pray that God will keep me holy and keep me well and keep me strong, and I will shun the virus. I imagine there's a level of consciousness that might be, possible for, but as for me, I wear my mask, I social distance, and I remember that science is based on scientific principle. And behind scientific principle is spiritual principle, the core first cause. So think on that a little bit. But this is a perfect night to be talking about false gods and spiritual law, because false gods tend to take over as making of themselves gods. Remember, false god means false good. We think this is our good, but ultimately it is not. I'm going to start reading then on the bottom of page 62 in the book. If you are using Kindle, it'll be somewhere in the vicinity. I think you can search for spiritual law and false gods. Okay, so false gods, which is an idea of false good or false attainment of good in the lower human consciousness mind, without knowledge or consideration of spiritual law or principle. We'll go back to a child who wants to, Halloween's coming, a child that wants to go out trick-or-treating, then eat all of the candy. The lower human nature is not aware of or wishes to be. They may know of spiritual principle, but they don't know it because they don't follow it. So this kid may come home with a bag full of if they were a lucky kid, chocolate. And do you remember when you would get home from a Halloween trick-or-treating and everybody'd sit in a circle and dump out their bags and go through and it's, oh, I got a Hershey bar. I got a full-size Hershey bar. I don't know anybody gives out full-size candy bars anyway, but we'd stack up our Hershey bars, our nickel candy bars. And can you imagine getting a Hershey bar for a nickel? We sell them at the store at the campground for a whole $1. Things have changed in the past 65 years. But then you would get then some people would give you apples, like apples. And then some people would give you little bags of popcorn. Well, popcorn's great, but if you go trick-or-treating and you're thinking about chocolate and you get popcorn, chances are you're not going to be real grateful for it. Got to remember gratitude first. But, so the kid comes home from trick-or-treating and decides he or she is going to eat all those nickel candy bars or Rolos. Rolos, one of my favorites. Peanut butter cups. What happens is there's no consciousness of scientific, physical law, biological law, or spiritual law. It's not a smart thing to do. So they eat all the candy, and what happens is they get very sick. So in the end, they don't feel good about all the candy they ate. They may even puke it out, and then the next day, candy's gone. They don't understand these principles. Well, that's what we're like. The child's sense of false good was unlimited candy. That is not what spirit, what wholeness, what goodness, that divine idea is for candy. Candy is a great treat, but it's not a healthy diet. It doesn't work in too much abundance like anything else. Okay. So the focus of this child that is gorging on the candy is self. What the body, what the child, what the undeveloped person, the immature person wants. Self-power, self-indulgence, self-centered, and self-satisfied. That chances are that self-satisfaction is not going to last long because when the belly comes. This is why the ego can be defined with the acronym. We've talked about it before. EGO, edging God out. We edged out. Even if our mother told us 100 times you can't eat all that candy, you're going to get a stomach ache. When presented with a spiritual law, the first thought of the ego is knee-jerk. You're not going to tell me what to do. It's a reaction that something or someone wants control. See, the ego wants to be in absolute control. The second thought is, how can I circumvent this law so that I can get what I want? There's many ways. Maybe the child would sneak the candy up to his or her bedroom or, stuff their pockets before they go up to bed. There's many ways, but we do the same thing. Remember we talked about Lucy last night? How many times did Ricky say to Lucy, no, you cannot be in my show? Next thing you know, she's showing up somehow in the show. One time, when they opened a cello case, there she was in the cello case. we try to get our way, but if it's not in alignment with spiritual principle, it's not going to come out right. Okay, so this is where scheming, manipulating, and conniving comes in. Even if we are lying to ourselves. Isn't it amazing? Did you ever wonder how you could possibly be as smart as you are, as intelligent as you are, and still fall for your own lies? I mean, I did it plenty of times. Then when afterwards, when you realize how foolish it was, ugh, what was I thinking? You know, what were you thinking? Chances are you weren't thinking. You were not in your right mind. You were thinking from your lower human part of your consciousness. I like to think about Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. Our ego is like Wile E. Coyote. And Wile E. always wants what he wants, and he wants that Roadrunner. Doesn't matter that the Roadrunner's way faster than him. Doesn't matter that the Roadrunner's kind of skinny and wouldn't be a very good meal anyway. He just wants to get that Roadrunner. I think it went from hunger to spite to a challenge that I'm going to get him no matter what. But we chase and we chase, but we don't catch. Wile E. Coyote is chasing something. Our Wile E. Coyote is chasing something we haven't a prayer of catching. Yet, like Wile E., we think of one trick or another, always provided by who? Give you a second to type something in. Where does Wile E. Coyote get all his tricks? What does it always say on the box? Nobody's with me. Cheryl, you know this. Acme. It's always Acme. That's where he gets all his things that he's going to use to catch the Roadrunner, to blow up the Roadrunner, to squish the Roadrunner. Always comes from Acme. The false gods of material gain and ego power are the Roadrunner, zipping along laughing at us. I think if Wile E. just stopped long enough to relax, he might find there is plenty to catch right within his reach. Have you done that? Have you had good right within your reach while you've been out chasing good elsewhere? If that good wasn't really your good, it was false good, which means it was a false god. Beep, beep. Okay. Failure to understand principle and how it works brings frustration. It's like trying to assemble a piece of furniture without the instructions. Sound a little familiar, maybe? You know, that's the principle of IKEA. When all else fails, read the instructions. Of course, I've put stuff together with the IKEA instructions, and I have found that when I'm done, either I have one piece too many or one piece missing, or it just doesn't look the way it should. We have to know what the instructions are. And you know what, in Unity, we call the Bible the manual. It's the user's manual for life. Learning and living by spiritual law does not confine it. It supports us. See, we keep thinking of laws as something that confines us, that blocks us, that puts a burden on us. It's not that at all. It's there to bless us. Now, sometimes if we are not really getting principle, or if we are twisting around, we don't understand it and we cause ourselves more grief. Okay. A man needed $400. He was $400 short on his bills. He was taught in a class about tithing and about giving 10%, and that everything we give comes back blessed and multiplied. Well, he thought that was pretty good, but he didn't really get the principle. So what he did was he tithed $40, figuring it would come back multiplied to make his 400. And what happened? First of all, he didn't have the $40. He needed 400. The check bounced, got an overdraft fee, and didn't get the $400 he needed anyway. See, that's called metaphysical malpractice. He's doing the metaphysics backwards. We do not give to receive. We give because we already have received. As he gave from a belief in lack with money he didn't have, he could not possibly manifest abundance. At the core of his giving was a consciousness of lack. When we give, we must keep our thoughts free, open, grateful for what we have, and happy to share. We share because we have it to share. Because none of it's ours. We are blessed with everything we have. It could be gone tomorrow. But if we live according to spiritual principle, by the energy of spirit, as we freely give, we shall freely receive. One of the very well-known ministers in Unity, her name is Ruth Mosley, and she's a real pillar of the Unity movement. And she tells a story about when she was really, really broke. And she was told, I'm sorry, Tishy's in a mood tonight, so that's just my cat. Don't panic. She's just being a little obnoxious. Okay, so she was so broke, there was nothing she could give to the church. And she was listening to these prosperity things about, well, you have to give if you want to receive, you know. Oh, no, no, no. We receive and we give all freely and with joy. But she had an idea. She gave her services to the church. She cleaned the church. She took care of it. She helped out answering phones sometimes. This was all voluntary. And then money started to come. God is our source, but the channels are unlimited. You never know where your abundant blessings are going to come from. And they may not always be in the form of cash. Someone may give you clothing that they either outgrew or they grew tired of, and it's just what you wanted. Or you may find that they're giving you food. Hey, I made this wonderful casserole, had extra. Oh, my garden was so productive. Here, have some of this. You don't know where you're going to receive things from. It just comes. It's called the law of circulation, and you're just in there going with the flow. That is spiritual principle. So when you receive, always remember one of the first things you want to do is give on what you have received. You will always be blessed. It's easy to minimize our behaviors. There are dangerous words such as just or only. It was just a little lie, we tell ourselves. Or the IRS gets plenty from me as it is and doesn't need it. Then there's the cliche. This one I really don't like. It's easier to beg forgiveness than ask permission. Now, if you even have a thought that you need to ask permission, that means you need to ask permission. Again, if you go by that saying, it's easier to beg forgiveness than ask permission, you're going to find yourself on the short end of the stick a lot. Because what's going to happen? Everything you send out comes back blessed and multiplied or cursed and multiplied. So if you find yourself in that circumstance, you're going to find other people are going to do the same thing to you. What we have to realize, oh, this is beautiful. This comes from the Bible, from Sirach, also known as Ecclesiastes, Book of Wisdom. Do not find fault before you investigate. Examine first, then criticize. Examine first, then criticize. There's always that thing on the tip of our tongue, that little snipey, gossipy thing that wants to come out. Before we criticize, we have to make sure we examine. Chances are, even if you examine, you're not going to find out enough that you would have a right to criticize. Think of the iceberg. Only that little tip is showing at the top, and the whole big bulk of the iceberg is below the surface. What we don't realize is law is law. Spiritual law is spiritual law, and it is unbreakable. In Galatians 6:7 it says, do not be deceived. The Lord cannot be mocked. And in this case, the law cannot be mocked. We think we are pretty smart sometimes, and we may pinch a little something here and a little something there. And, it's like that thing about taking things from work, that you say, oh, they got tons of pens, they got tons of whatever, and, you pinch what you can. And somebody's going to be pinching what you got. So it's just not the way you want to live. You want to live in a cycle of blessings, not in a cycle of lack and limitation. Now, here's another thing. This is principle. It's not personal. People a lot of times just want to take everything personally. They get offended. They get upset because you suggested they might be out of spiritual alignment. That's after you investigated before you said anything or criticized. And other than criticizing, you can always ask a person, what did you mean by that? Or do you think that was the right thing to do? Or, stuff in that direction. It's not what you say sometimes, it's how you say it. Okay, so the law is always engaged. And again, it's not personal, it's the law. If you touch a hot stove, you will get burned. I used to think that those stoves that have the ceramic tops, the glass-looking tops, I used to think, oh, I want one of those. Nothing can fall down into the burners. And what I found out, be careful what you ask for. Thank goodness I never did get one. My son has one, but those burners, when they turn off and the red goes away, they're still very hot. I have burned myself on them more than once. I hate to say more than once, it didn't look hot. Yep. But the stove, when you touch a hot stove, it's not angry at you. It doesn't say, how many times did I tell you not to touch me? I'm hot and you're going to get burned. Right? And then you touch it the second time it's hot, and you go, what's the matter with you? You didn't get it the first time. The stove is not punishing you by touching it. It's a hot stove and it burns. Can you look at that? Can you get that as principle, not personal? The stove, getting burned by the stove was not personal. It's just scientific principle. If it's hot, you touch it, you're going to get burned. Think about that the next time you say to yourself, why is this happening to me again? Try to wrap your mind around it and say, this is principle, it's not personal. So especially if you're taking it personally, think about it. As far as we went into the mortal and venial sins before, the way I'm bringing this out tonight because like mortal sins are big things and venial sins are little trivial things. Trivial things build up. One thing leads to another, and it grows. And as it grows, we get a big backlash when you reach a breaking point. You know, I gotta have a confession here. It's the end of the season. It's very hard for me because I love the campground so much. And I love what I do so much that as the campers, the season's getting short, we see the reservations going down, we see the leaves falling, and it gets dark. It was dark when I left the office tonight, and you think, oh no, it's over. And as much as I look forward to having big stretches of time, I also am very sad that this session, this camping season is almost over. I don't know why I went there. Okay. I think it was about little things adding up to being big things. And I hate it when the train leaves the station without me. All right. So, I'm looking at the top of page 64. There are little things we may do, like returning a library book through the night drop and not paying the fine. We put it through the night drop so we don't have to pay the fine. I literally could not do that. There were days I could. And excuse me, I could have rationalized it. A few little rationalize. They shouldn't be charging these fees. I tried to get it back on time, but it doesn't matter. These days, if I had to turn a book back in and do they still do charge at the library? I don't know, because I don't leave things too long before they go back. Anyway, things build up, and sooner or later, these negative causes that you've sent forth, these little tiny things, will come back. Oh, the train just came back to the station. What I was saying about my confession and it being late in the season, and it's going to be over pretty soon, and my little heart starts to think, oh no, we're going into winter, it's going to be cold, it's going to be months, 5 months till the campers come back, So I kind of have been treating myself. We've got ice cream. We've got Dove bars. Dove bars are tough. And so, like, for a few days in a row in the afternoon, I've said to my sister, I think I could use a Dove bar. They're gonna be, she said, are they gone yet? Please tell me they're gone. Because I'll have one, and next thing you know, she's saying, maybe I should have one too. So these are little things, but when I get on that scale, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you where that Dove bar ended up. Yeah, I probably don't have to tell you exactly where, but you get the idea. Same thing with little sins, with little pushing spiritual principle, pushing law, breaking spiritual laws, pushing your luck. At one point, we discover the law, the universe will claim its own. If we lie, we will be lied to. Now, we've talked a little bit about lying before. What do you do if someone lies to you? How do you handle it? Do you call them out? You could. Will it change them? I don't know. But the point I have come to, if someone lies to me and I know it's a lie, or I find out it's a lie, I might not say anything to them, but I will never believe with, just blindly believe them again. Everything they say would be subject to examination down the road. So when you're tempted to lie, don't make the assumption that you're getting away with it. Chances are, when we lie to someone, they already know. Think about that. And think about what Honest Abe said. I do not have a good enough memory to be a liar. So if we lie, we will be lied to. If we cheat, we will be cheated. It doesn't matter whether we get caught or not. The energy is out there in the universe. The universe will claim its own. The energy of universal principle is always working. Through the law of increase, when we don't learn our lesson and change our error, the effects of future infringements will come back increased. We call this the cosmic 2x4, okay? Sometimes something happens and we go, ouch, something in our life. And if we don't wake up, let's say climate change, okay? So we see that these wildfires are horrible and they are a part of climate change. If we don't get it, let's say we've had fires for decades out, especially in California, the wildfires. We didn't get it. And every year it gets bigger and it gets bigger. Why? Because we didn't get it. If you don't get the cosmic 2x4, you're going to get the cosmic 4x8. If you don't get the cosmic 4x8, you're going to get the cosmic 8x16. It happens until we get it. And that's not God punishing us. It's showing, here's the effect of the cause you sent forth. What are you going to do now? If you don't do anything, it's not going to get better. We all make promises to ourselves. Very often we break them as fast as we make them. Did you make New Year's resolutions? Did you keep them? I got some thinking to do, and I don't know, maybe I should go out on the side of the road tomorrow and give away all the Dove bars so they won't be there to tempt me. A lie is a lie, even if we're lying to ourselves. This comes from Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon, nor can you serve God and ego. So I invite you to think on that. And next time, which is going to be Monday, we are going to be looking at one God, many faces, one law, many expressions. I hope you'll join me. I hope you enjoyed tonight's little gathering, and look forward to seeing you again on Monday. Till then, God bless you and have a great time till I see you again.